Okay. So what we so if you remember, we outlined on Thursday, we outlined the two main approaches in Rishonim as to the extent to which Yemot HaMashiach is meant to be naturalistic. Wait 1 second. So we outlined the two main approaches in Rishonim, right? The more naturalistic view, and the more miraculous view, and with that framed the question of the Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven. And we noted that you really could take, obviously, middle approaches, and this was the point that Professor Dov Schwartzman in his article, that you could say that, look, that maybe we won't have miracles like the Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven. That doesn't mean that you won't have certain changes besides for just Shibud Malchiot, right? The Rambam's minimalist view can be expanded, and he notes that in the Provençals that's pretty explicit that there is some expansion of that. What we left off with was the possibility that maybe there are different ways in which Yemot HaMashiach and the building of Beit HamMikdash could manifest themselves, and this appears in several of the Achronim, and that's what I look at first. And once we do that, maybe we'll make some more points from Professor Kanafoko's article. But first, let's look at some of the Achronim that I gave you on the source sheet. So much of the discussion is based on the following drasha in Sanhedrin Daf Sadichet, where the Gemara, playing in a pasuk in Yeshayahu Perach Samach, says as follows: Amar Zandri, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Rami, Ktiv Be'ita, Uchtiv Achi Shena. When discussing the what?
Did you send these, or?
We did, yeah. This was the same sources we had.
No, I know we had them, but I can't find them in my phone.
Here.
I have a copy.
Here. Where the pasuk says that I will bring the Mashiach Be'ita, which means what? In its time. And what is Achi Shena? I'll do it quickly. I'll rush it. Fast. So the Gemara says, which is it? Is it Be'ita at its right time, which means that you're not speeding it up, you're not slowing it down, it's happening when it's supposed to happen, or is it rushed? So the Gemara answers, Zachu Achi Shena, if they merit, so Mashiach will come earlier, it'll be hastened. Lo Zachu Be'ita, if you're not Zoch, it'll come by its final date. Yes?
But from God's perspective, whenever there's no such thing as fast or slower.
No, from our perspective.
So this is God speaking.
Yes, to us though.
Right, but and its time just means like there is like God already knows the time it's gonna happen.
Well, meaning Talui and free will. So this is a point in general.
It's not even about free will. It's not free will, but God knows what they're gonna do.
So that's the classic kasha. But look, this is the point that the Malbim makes in general. But there's a parak in Parak Yeshayahu, Parak Aleph discusses the Messianic era. Now, al pi Chazal, it's about Mashiach, and al pi Pshat, it's about Chizkiyahu. So which is it? Is it Mashiach or is it Chizkiyahu? So the Malbim says that if you look in the Gemara says that if Chizkiyahu had been Zocheh, he would have been Mashiach, but because after the miracles that happened to him, he failed to sing Shira to God, so he wasn't the Mashiach. And the Malbim says that what you learn from this is that many Nevuot could be fulfilled in different ways. That basically Hashem has a template, and if we're Zocheh, so then this will fulfill itself at an earlier point as the final Mashiach. If we're not, so then potential Mashiachs or potential eras that could turn into the final era won't turn into the final era, and we'll have to keep waiting. Because that's just the way free will works, right? That God sets in motion, and if we're Zocheh, great. If we're not Zocheh, again, yes, you have the perpetual problem of free will and God's foreknowledge, but that's a bigger kasha than just this. That's a kasha on everything, which I'm sure you dealt with Ray Ginsburg at some point this year. No? Divine foreknowledge versus free will?
I mean, we did talk about free will.
Okay. So based on this perspective that there are different possibilities, so some of the Achronim suggest that perhaps it's not an either or. It's not that the Beit HamMikdash will definitely fall out of heaven, everything will be miraculous, etc., or that it won't. It's that it depends. So if you look, for example, at Shut Maramshik, Maramshik is one of the main students of the Chatam Sofer, or the Chatam Sofer. Right? He's one of the leaders of Hungarian Jewry in the 1900s. And he says, "V'yoter nir'eh zeh ha'inyanim ha'mikdash yavo min hashamayim ma'aseh adam atzmo taliv she'kitzin anal dim yeh kate shel be'ito yeh kol keseder." He says, if you're not zocheh, and Mashiach comes at its normal time just because that's when it was supposed to come, so then things will be more naturalistic. But if God speeds it up, hastens it, so then part of that hastening might be that the Beit HamMikdash will fall from heaven. So that's one sort of middle position. Means the middle position. It says that it won't necessarily. No, it's not a either or, right? There are all types of positions that are not either or. How about that? That are not Rashi or the Rambam, Rashi or the Meiri. So the Mashiach says it could be either. Now, if you look at the next article, I've heard this quoted in some shiurim, and I was looking for it, and that's where I came across this article. I was trying to find this. I came across this short sheet. I was looking at this article. So there was an article in the Ma'ayan by Reb Chaim Schweig Feivel Frank, who I don't really know who that is, but he was the Rav in Yamin Moshe apparently in the 20th century. So he surveyed some of these issues, and he suggests that Im nizkeh anu nivneh Beit HamMikdash kodem Beit HaMashiach ki tavnit Beit HaRishon al yedei David u'Shlomo ve'Ezra b'Beit Sheni. כשיבוא משיח הוא יעשה את התקנים והוספות נחוצות מעניין הבית השלישי על פי התבנית שבספר יחזקאל. אם לא נזכה חס ושלום, תעשה מלאכים ויהיה הקדוש ברוך הוא בית המקדש יראה בשמיים בנוי משוחל. He says the opposite is true. That if we're zocheh, right? So the Mashiach says that in an ideal world, the Beit HaMikdash will fall from heaven. If it's not an ideal world, so then we'll have to do it ourselves. This Reb Chaim Shraga Feivel Frank says the opposite. He says, no. If you're zocheh, so then we will build the Beit HaMikdash before Mashiach comes. And it'll be the product of human effort.
Well, okay.
And if we're not zocheh, then God will just, throw it down at us. Basically, all finished. And we won't participate in it. And he argues the opposite, that actually the participation of human beings is the ideal.
But isn't it something like God made more holy?
Say it again?
Isn't something like God makes more holy?
Not necessarily. Right? Meaning the first two Beit HaMikdash we built. Okay. Can you leave Yosef for sure? The air conditioning is out there, no? It's controlled totally out there, no?
Alright, let's say the first is built by God, but it's like... No.
So that's what we saw certain Mepharshim who said that, right? Or we saw that Rabbeinu Bachya claimed that the reason the first two could be destroyed and the third won't be is because it's built by God. That's not necessarily the case. You could have said, what do you mean? There's a mitzvah to build a Beit HaMikdash. That's the ideal, right? That's the position that Rav Frank here is taking. He's saying, what do you mean? There's a mitzvah to build a Beit HaMikdash. Now this gets into a bigger question that we noted, is how much do you think it has to be in order? So if you remember, the Rambam thinks there has to be Mashiach and he has to build a Beit HaMikdash, but in general, many other people play more with the order and say, no, it could be one way, it could be the other, it could be a kibbutz galus, it will happen without Mashiach, it could be happen with Mashiach, right? Beit HaMikdash could be before Mashiach, after Mashiach, meaning these things can play themselves out in different ways. So he takes the opposite perspective as the Maramshik. Now the third possibility, and this is something we already saw, I think this was in Rabbi Yashiv, is the possibility that maybe we really paskin like, that maybe even if you paskin like Rashi, you will finish the Beit HaMikdash. Remember, that was one of his solutions to how can you build a Beit HaMikdash at night, was maybe it'll fall down 95%. And then you'll have to do the final hammer blows, and you do that after sunrise. So Maral Diskin was actually the one who said that, look, maybe the Beit HaMikdash will fall mostly from Shemayim, but because there's a mitzvah to build the Beit HaMikdash, God won't do it 100%, he'll do it 95% and let us fulfill our mitzvah by finishing the process. If you look at Maral Diskin says, he bases himself on the language in Musaf, and he says, V'ar'enu b'minyano, v'samcheinu b'tikuno. that God will show us the building, the Beit HaMikdash, and we'll rejoice in what's tikuno? It's fixing up. So he says, what's the difference between binyano and tikuno? So he says, L'tovam shel Yisrael yashir HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ezid Dvarim Ktanim L'takein Asher Batikun Azot Yitkasher Sheiraui La'avodah. For the good of the Jewish people, meaning to allow us to participate, what's God going to do? Going to leave a little bit. Maybe he'll leave off the doors, and you'll have to put in the doors. And therefore, it will be called on the name of the Jewish people, because in general we have this idea in halacha that anyone who finishes a mitzvah nikret al shmo. So he said that's what the language is. Show us the building, and let us rejoice in the final touches. So here we have three possibilities, right? One is that if we're zoche, God will drop it from heaven. If we're not zoche, we'll build it. Or punkt faker. If we're zoche, we'll have the zchut to build it before Mashiach even comes. And if we don't, and if we're not zoche, so then it'll come from Shamayim. Maral Diskin says, no, maybe it'll fall from heaven, and still we will halachically be the ones who built it, because we will finish it off. Another middle position, again, middle position meaning one that doesn't take it either, is that there is this notion, which we didn't get into too much, but it comes in Chazal. It's a very strange esoteric concept that I can't promise you I really understand, which is that Chazal talk about there is a Yerushalayim Shel Mala. And in addition to what you see, there is some sort of heavenly Yerushalayim. And the Aruch LaNer suggests that perhaps our Beit HaMikdash will build, but God will build His Beit HaMikdash, and those are connected. I'm behind a mask, so you can't see my face. I know. So, again, I'm not promising you I understand what I just said, but I'm just giving you a survey.
It's his house.
So I'll show you what he said. Let's read what he reads. This is commenting on the Gemara in Sukkah that we saw where it comes up. He says, Banui Mishul Chlal, right? Rashi had said it'll come down from heaven. Tozut said, Afshikam, Tozut, Ritvaz Kim Lozeh. He said, in the Fiani Adati, Docha Kula Farsha Gemara came. The Gemara Mehir Yibban Beit HaMikdash. But Fidei Rashi, Avelemir Mehir Yigoleh Beit HaMikdash. He said, I can't buy Rashi Kipshuto. Why? Because the Gemara says, remember the Gemara we were talking about, right? Remember we got into this, that the Omer,
it was very practical Gemara.
Right? We're worried that Mehir Yibbaneh Beit HaMikdash. So the Aruch LaNer says, what is Yibbaneh? Yibbaneh means it will be built. According to Rashi, it's not built, it's like dropped out of heaven. It will be revealed. That's not building. Pshat is, we build the Beit HaMikdash. Right? I know, right? Wild. He says, "V'chein halashon de'ivnei the Gemara mashma." He said, "Think about all the language that came up in the Gemara. It'll be built. Mashma binyan mamash." V'chein the Gemara maninu. Remember, Chashem Mani Mashiach Ben David Mashiach Ben Yosef Ba'adayu Upeirs Rashi Mashiachim Shneim Umanim Levei HaMikdash. He said, even Rashi later on says, why does the Gemara call? The Gemara later on refers to them. He says they're Umanim. The two Mashiach Ben Yosef Mashiach Ben David will be artisans to build the Beit HaMikdash, and he says, "How do we know
how to build it?
Psukim."
We know how to build the Mishkan.
No, in Navi. In Navi, there's detailed instructions. In Yechezkel.
So we can build it exactly.
In Yechezkel, it's after the Churban. He has a nevuah of how exactly Beit HaMikdash should look.
Oh, how the third.
Well, that's how it's understood by Chazal, yeah. And he says, he says, furthermore, think about our tefillot. We say that, what's Yibaneh? Should we build? You tefillot shav. He said, why do we keep asking if it's going to be built? If according to Rashi, it's all built, just waiting in heaven to be dropped out of heaven. According to Rashi, it sounds like you should pray more that it should be revealed rather than built, because it is built. And therefore, he says, he doesn't believe that even Rashi thinks this. I don't know if that's true, but okay. He says, therefore it seems to me He says the Beit HaMikdash will be built like by us, like the Meiri. Hu Beit HaMikdash ruchani sheyavo letoch Beit HaMikdash hanivnei gashmi kineshama betoch haguf. It means that God will put the spirit, the neshama of the Beit HaMikdash, the heavenly Beit HaMikdash, imbue that into our physical one. Just like God's spirit came down, and maybe that's what Yerushalayim Shalmala means, right? Not that there is Yerushalayim in heaven, or he doesn't say this, but I think that's what he would get at. Right? So there is. It doesn't mean Hashem will build it physically. It means that God will imbue the value by allowing His Shekhinah to dwell in the Mishkan, whatever that means. In the same way that was manifest in the Mishkan by the fire coming down, right? You remember? God, guys. I really have no patience for people who forget Chumash, especially just a few weeks ago. When the Mishkan was built, God's Spirit descended, fire, and all that stuff. That will happen, right? That it shows that God is here. God is accepting this as the place, the meeting point between humanity and God. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like metaphysically, but that's what God adds to Beit HaMikdash. And maybe that's what it is. And he says, Kamo shirei b'mishkan Beit HaMikdash ha'eshel ma'alo, tocha eshel hedyot shebet. Just like we light the fire and God adds His fire to the karbanot. He said that's what Chazal are getting at. They don't mean there's literally a Beit HaMikdash in heaven. What they mean is that our Beit HaMikdash gets its value from the fact that that God participates in it, and that's about it means that when we build a Beit HaMikdash, God will bring His Spirit in, and that's all it means. It doesn't mean that God will physically build it. It means
that's how he was explaining Rashi? Because if that's what Rashi meant, then
no, it's not what Rashi meant. No, you see his last line. He said, and he has a different solution for Rashi's problem. No, he doesn't think this is what Rashi means. This is what he thinks is true. Right? He doesn't think this is what Rashi means.
So that's what we're saying is correct. Is actually the culmination of...
Right, now the Lubavitcher Rebbe also believes that it's mostly built by God, but human beings have some participation in it, similar to the Maharil, though not exactly identical. So if you look at in the Sharei Geula, he writes, right, the main novelty of the Beit HaMikdash is that it's going to be, this one will be the eternal one, the Loka Bayit Rishon Bayit Sheni, unlike the first two. And that's why it has to be built by God. Not built just by man, which has no lasting power, no staying power. What?
We literally broke the luchos that God gave to Moshe 5 minutes later. Because it was built by God is not proof that it can't be destroyed.
I think you are correct. Yep. I'm just telling you what people say, but I agree with you. Right? I agree with that. I don't know if you can defend it. Okay. Okay. Last point here is that the Tiferet Yisrael, on his commentary on Midot, says we have the Masechet Midot, Masechet Tamid, that basically describe the way the Beit HaMikdash is going to look and the sizes of everything. And he says, okay, look, I understand why you have such a Masechet according to the Rambam. Yeah. But he says, I get it. Mem Gimel. And he says, I understand why you have a Masechta about how the Beit HaMikdash should look if you think you're supposed to build it, because you're supposed to build it. But if you're not supposed to build it, why do we bother having a Masechta? So look at the underline. He says, according to the Rambam, that we're going to build it, so I understand why you have such a Masechet. But what about Rashi? And Rashi himself, as we said in Yechezkel, there's a stira that Rashi there says that we will build a Beit HaMikdash. It's a stira. He said it must be that it's just Agada to the Tanchuma. He said maybe what Rashi is really getting at and Tosfos is getting at is not literally that God will build it and drop it from heaven. It means that He'll help us miraculously, I don't know, speed up the process, I don't know. But we'll clearly be involved in some way, shape, or form, because otherwise it just doesn't make any sense. Right, so again, is that compelling within Rashi? I don't think so. Is it a good middle position that maybe we'll build it with some miraculous help? Yeah, that could be. So that is the basic survey of the different positions that exist. Okay? So, just to sort of polish off this issue, okay. So I just want to take you through some. So as I did last time, also, and I mentioned, these are like the classic sources, but there's been really important work done in academic circles that sort of flesh it out, as we saw in Dr. Berger's article. So a lot of the medieval scholarship that exists. The best medieval scholarship that exists is written by people who are both academics and massive Talmidei Chachamim. So we mentioned Dr. Berger last week, who I already told you how in the high esteem in which I hold him as both an academic and as a Talmid Chacham. And another person like that is Rabbi Dr. Ephraim Kannerfogel, who I took only in graduate school. I took him in graduate school several times. Very, very serious Talmid Chacham, one of the leading academic scholars of medieval Jewry, especially the Balei HaTosfot in the world, and also a Talmud the Rav, a very serious Talmid Chacham. So I emailed him last week. I was like, I remember you talked about this. I thought it was in his book, Peering Through the Lattices. It's not. And he sent me back his article. He's like, no. Everything I said on this topic is right here. So he put together, again, what he does is intellectual history of the Balei HaTosfot. So to wrap things up, let's look through this a little bit, okay? I'm not going to read through the whole article, but you have it to go through details, okay? So now, one of the things that Brother Kannervogel has really devoted his life to, one of his areas of study to, has been showing the extent to which in the Balei HaTosfot there is a bit more of a mystical, magical, miraculous train of thought. And he wrote his book, Peering Through the Lattices. The subtitle is Magic, Mysticism, and Liturgy in the Balei HaTosfot. And there is a lot of that, and he was analyzing much of that. So he notes that if you look at the bottom of page 148 that I gave you, that he argues that the Tosfos did in fact make certain suggestive choices regarding Talmudic and Midrashic texts would deal with the Messianic era, right? That the Balei HaTosfot don't write thorough philosophical works, but we can pick up from comments that they make the type of orientation they have to the Messianic period. Obviously, one of the classic examples is going to be the one that we saw, is Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven, which points you in their direction. But I want to do is, as I said, fill out the picture just a little bit more before we wrap it up. So if you look at section 2 here, he notes that although modern scholarship has debated the issue of whether Maimonides considered the Messianic age to be restorative or utopian, or both, right, meaning, is it going back to a past time, or is it creating a new ideal, or some level of both? Meaning, like, go back to, like, a throwback to, like, the time of David or something. Is that all Mashiach is?
Meaning the way
it was under David or Shlomo.
Reference to what, specifically?
Malchus, security. Meaning it's not like a new era, it's like the way it was in the good old times.
But, well, how would a new era be different?
Well, that...
we would still get a king, and it...
Right, I mean, it could be that we didn't have the level of peace in the time, even in the time of Shlomo, that we would now.
Meaning we have even more peace.
Right, meaning is it just a restorative, or is it a little even more utopian, whatever it is.
Technical.
Correct, I'm not saying this is it all, but he says, what all analyses concur that the non-miraculous, naturalistic character of the Messianic age is fundamental to Maimonides' presentation. I think we can all agree, yes? That what's central to the Rambam is that it's basically not miraculous. During the Messianic era, the workings of the world will continue to be guided solely by natural law, even as the Messiah will achieve far-reaching political and military victories, which would allow the Jewish nation to exist in complete security and to pursue undisturbed Torah study and contemplation of the divine. one need look no further than the manner in which Maimonides embraces and then champions the view enunciated by the Yomora Shmuel, that Ein Ben Olam Hazeh Mashiach El Shibud Malchiot Bilvad, in order to see the correctness of this observation. Towards the beginning of Mishnah Torah and Hilchot Tshuva, and again we saw this, so this is just a summary of what we've seen. Maimonides paraphrases the statement of Shmuel and then cites it while giving it additional weight. Aval Yemot HaMashiach Hu HaOlam Hazeh VaOlam Kimona Minhago Holech. The time of Mashiach is just this world, and the world follows its normal customs. Except that we'll get a king back. And similarly, the Maimonides writes at the end of Mishnah Torah. Again, we saw this as well, that Al Ya'aleh Alev Shebimot Mashiach Yivatel Davar Mimenhagot Shel Olam O Yesham Chidush B'Maaseh Breshit. Don't think that anything will be nullified or that Breshit will be something new will be brought in. The world will function as it should. In both instances, Maimonides attributes these concepts, and this is an important point that I think we mentioned. Right? Maimonides attributes these concepts not to the individual scholar who enunciated them, but to the seemingly more numerous and therefore more authoritative Chachamim, despite the fact that there is another Amoraic view found in Brachot 34b and several parallel passages which disagree with Samuel's position concerning Yemot HaMashiach. I mean, the Rambam takes the position of Shmuel as authoritative and as if it were the only view Now, if you look at footnote 7 here, he notes that in Iger Teiman, do you guys do Iger Teiman? Do you need to go to Shmuel David's Rambam letter class? Okay, so in Iger Teiman, his letter to the Jews of Yemen, he does say that the Mashiach will perform certain miracles to validate his genuineness, but he notes that it may be that he was just accommodating them and that they believed it and he was trying to comfort them. It's not clear that that's his authentic view. There's a lot of question in general around these letters, whether everything he said there was exactly what he believed, or because he was, there were certain polemical goals that he had to accomplish, that he sometimes did not present his actual view. Especially as we know in Hilchot Malachim, the Rambam says explicitly, and again I'll run through it here. Right, the Rambam says, "Al Yal Al Dat Chashem Al Mashiach Sarach Lasot Otodim Moftim Mechadish Rem Olam Mechayim Meitim." Don't think that Mashiach needs to perform miracles. Rather, he says he has to build a Beit HaMikdash, and he rejects the notion that it'll fall from heaven. As for the pasuk in Yeshayahu that says that Vigar Zevim Keves V'Neverim Gedi Yerbats, right? That the wolf and lamb will live together. What does the Rambam say about it? That it's a mashal. Yeah, it's a mashal that Jews and the non-Jews will live peacefully together. And as we read explicitly in the Rambam, how does the Rambam say that you'll know that someone's Mashiach?
He'll bring back most Jewish people.
Correct. He'll accomplish certain goals. He'll keep his Goliot. He'll inspire people spiritually. He'll build the Beit HaMikdash, etc. Now, turn to page 152. So now, to fill out some of the views here, okay? So, who took view with it? Who opposed this? So one of the people who really opposed it was the Abarbanel. So in his treatise, Yeshua Mashiach, Don Isaac Abarbanel takes strong exception to the Maimonidean concept of the Messianic age just outlined. Abarbanel expresses two basic objections. First, Maimonides has given much greater weight to the position of Shmuel than the Talmud itself does. Right. So the first problem the Abarbanel has is the Rambam got to his uber-rationalist view by asserting that Shmuel is the view in Chazal. But it's not the view in Chazal, it's a view in Chazal. And he said, right, Abarbanel notes that Shmuel is cited 6 times within the Gemara, and each time the Gemara seems to present it as a minority view, right? Because it says, this is according to Shmuel, or this is Pliga to Shmuel. The second problem the Abarbanel has is that there are many psukim and many Talmudic texts that really do sound much more miraculous, and therefore the Abarbanel, if you look at the top of 153, Abarbanel himself says that Shmuel only identifies one stage of the Messianic era. But you look at the top of 153, he says Abarbanel suggests that Shmuel held that there were to be two phases within the Messianic age. The first phase, in which the people of Israel will live securely in their land while dominating other nations, will consist of both natural and miraculous aspects and events. But even the miraculous events will not exceed those that occurred during the days of Moshe and the Exodus from Egypt. And Abarbanel bases this on Micha, the Kamei Tzedcha, Meretz Mitzrayim, Enu Niflaot. This is the connotation of the phrase Olam Hazeh in Shmuel's statement. Only natural, miraculous phenomenon that have already occurred, or that could have occurred in this world, will happen during the first phase of the Messianic era. So first of all, he says that Shmuel is not... Right, so the Abarbanel has a few critiques. First of all, Shmuel is not the be-all and end-all. Second of all, he argued that Shmuel himself means that there are two eras. The first one is less miraculous, but not miraculous at all. It's just less miraculous. It's some mix of natural victories plus miracles that we've seen before, but not like new qualitative miracles. But then there'll be a second stage, which you call Tchiyah Meitim, Olam HaTchiyah, or Olam Haba, in which things will change. And therefore, if you look at the Hebrew quote from Yeshua Malcha that's at the bottom of 153, the Abarbanel's conclusion is that Ki lo ola al libo shel Shmuel shemona Mashiach lo yishtana davar me'amenag ha'tivi asher anachnu bo hayom. Even Shmuel never thought that the Yemona Mashiach would be totally natural. No one ever thought that. The fact that Shmuel did not include miracles such as resurrection, the evaluation of the Messianic era, was only because he limited himself to the first phase. Indeed, the limited nature of Shmuel's characterization of the Messianic era is perhaps what led the Talmudic Sugya to portray his position as something of a dat yachid.
If Rambam says there's no miracles, right, and we're going to take that very, very literally, no miracles at all, how does he view the
How does he what? The Rambam views that as like beyond this world, right?
He says it's a thing that's going to happen. That's clearly
correct. And the Yemona Mashiach, I think, is just natural. That's like already
part of Yemona Mashiach.
No, it's after Yemona Mashiach. It's a later era.
But it happens in a result of...
Correct, but it's more like Olam Haba-esque, right? It's way after, or something like that.
But it happens in this world.
That's not totally true. Or the Rambam is not...
I mean, how could it happen?
Because that's supposed to...
Like you're not dead.
Then you're saying still ended.
It's like your soul.
They're separate now.
Yeah, well, the Rambam is a much more spiritualized version. A full position of the Rambam on Tchiyas Meisim is, probably beyond us for the moment.
Have like writings on it?
Of course, many. That's why it's beyond one share. If he had a little bit, I could give it to you. But he has, all of his Akdam and Achelak. Right? He talks about it there. He talks about it in the Mishnah Torah. Okay. Now there were other people who went like Abarbanel as well. So, for example, Moshe Taku, who I know you have learned this year, right? Moshe Taku.
Yeah.
Right, Ginsburg has definitely quoted Moshe Taku, who thought that God is a body.
Oh, that.
That Balatoso, yeah. So if you look at the quote and look at footnote 13, he's quoted here again. It's you can only really read it on a facsimile edition. It says, "K'moshe Amar Rabbeinu Kol Mashen Nabu Chachamim Lo Nabu Eli Mona Mashiach." Va'afilu l'Shmuel Damar Ein Bein Olam Hazeh Mona Mashiach LaShibud Malchut. Even Shmuel, who said there's no difference in this world and Mona Mashiach, except for Shibud Malchut, before the fact that we won't be oppressed. Maybe it only means at the beginning of the process. It won't change. It will just be free. But we'll get used to Ruach HaKodesh, and there'll be fire coming down Karbanot, and God will be close, and there'll be the pillar of fire. But in later on, we'll have Tchiyah Meitim, and the Beit HamMikdash will will come, etc. So this follows that same line as the Abarbanel, that maybe there are two stages, one which is a little bit more naturalistic but not completely naturalistic, and then eventually move to the really serious, extreme miracles.
Can we even have those anymore? I thought the idea of miracles really finished more with...
But they believe that's going to come back in the time of Mashiach. That's their...
That will have open miracles again?
Again, that's the machloket. That's what I've been...
I know, I understand.
That's the... Have you been bigger?
I know part of the... We were talking before about adding some time with the match of the appearing, so I didn't want to say it earlier, but I'm thinking, is there we're also underlying the issue of whether open miracles or not will occur as the machloket.
That was literally...
Take away his right.
Yes, I think so. That's literally what we've been doing for 2 days, is framing the machloket. That was what I said I wanted to do that most people don't do, is framing this issue of the Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven in the broader perspective of whether the Messianic era will be naturalistic or not naturalistic. Okay. Now, what Professor Cantervogel notes, and here we'll sort of wrap up with this, is that most of the Balei Tosfot don't write systematic works. But we can guess that the Balei Tosfot probably are more on the Abarbanel or Moshe Taku camp, because...
It wasn't most people, I mean, that's just
yes,
their beliefs, those.
Correct, but he says, but where do we get that notion? Because we do have a few hints, a few suggestive comments, and probably the most suggestive comment that we have is the Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven. Right, and that should push you to believe that probably even if the Balei Tosfot Rashi didn't articulate their view extensively, there's good reason to believe that they're more on that side of the equation. So you look at page 157, Professor Cantervogel says, right, as we shall see shortly, the notion that the temple will descend from heaven fully built in what is obviously miraculous occurrence appears consistently within Tosfot's texts and writings. This event and the resurrection of the dead are two of the most striking miracles of the Messianic age, as Moshe Taku also indicated. Thus, the Tosfot gloss in Shabbat wonders how Shmuel could characterize the Messianic era in a manner which is not recognized in any way the inclusion of these significant miracles. Remember we said that? We saw that Tosfot has that suggestive comment as well, that even on Shmuel, what does he say? Lav dafka. Right? That he doesn't really mean it. Right? That's the next paragraph. He says, I ain bein lav dafka. So you see that there's two very suggestive points in Tosfot. One is that Tosfot has this notion like Rashi, the Beit HamMikdash will fall from heaven. The other is that Tosfot is convinced that even though Shmuel said there's no difference between this world and Mashiach, he doesn't really mean it.
I wonder how Moshe Taku thinks God's going to build the Beit HamMikdash in the sky if it's physical. Plays out.
And now Professor Cantervogel notes that again, this is supported from the fact that Tosfot quotes this Beit HamMikdash falling from heaven. Rashi does as well, and there he notes that Rashi does bring it up in our sugya to explain the slight problem of Chadash. But we said that even though Rashi sometimes says differently, Rashi does seem to quote it in several places, including in his parish on the Torah, which seems to be that he was really into this idea. And if you look on page 160, he notes that if you remember the way I got to Dr. Berger's article and the Dov Schwartz article was, if you look at note 25, right, note 25 in page 160, that's where I got it from. That Professor Cantervogel had summarized that point, right? That Berger maintains that Meiri's rejection of Rashi's approach in favor of an even more unusual interpretation of the highest rabbinic court would err out of the intense desire to see the temple built and allowed to be built on the festival was a function of Meiri's rationalism, which meant, as in the case of Maimonides, temple fully built from heaven was an impossibility. Although this explanation of Meiri's motivation is most plausible, note that Meiri does not follow Maimonides' rationalistic conception of the Messianic era in all respects, and that was Dov Schwartz's article that we already looked at. Professor Cantervogel notes, right, that the Balei Tosfot quote Rashi's interpretation, and Tosfot in Shavuot also quotes the Midrash Tanchuma that we started with, Remember that Medrash Tanchuma that's quoted in Tosfot as well, even though the exact version quoted by Tosfot is not in our Medrash Tanchuma, but some version of it is. Right, and that's what he notes on page 161, that there are different versions of this. So, for example, if you're looking in footnote 29, Amru Yisrael v'nei Kadosh Baruch Hu Ribono Shalom L'kvar Nivnei Yerushalayim v'chareva. The Jews will say to God, wasn't the Beit HaMikdash, Yerushalayim already built and destroyed? Amar lehem al yidei amanotechem v'charva u'gelita mitocha aval atid lavo ani boneh ota. And God said, you're right, but I will eventually build it. V'eni orez ota, and I will never destroy it. Shneimar ki bana Hashem Tzion yireh b'chvagos ki samachti Hashem b'foalecha ma'aseh yadecha raneim, etc. And we noted this notion that from the Kara Kemach, from the Rabbeinu Bachai, that the next Beit HaMikdash can never be destroyed because it will be built by God. So the truth is that even appears, if you look in footnote 29 and footnote 30, in the Psikta Rabati, which is a later Midrash as well, that Ela Mikdash Rishon Shebeno Basar V'Dam Nofel Biat Sonei, that the Mikdash Rishon that is built by human beings can fall in the hands of enemies. Aval Mikdash Acharon Shekadosh Baruch Hu Buna Ota Shene'amar Bonei Yerushalayim Hashem Nitchashel Yichanes V'Shuv Lo Yicharev. But the Beit HaMikdash, which was built by God, will not be destroyed. And then Professor Karenvogel notes that it's not just the Balei Tosfot on the Gemara, but Elazar Bar Natan, the Ravan, in the German Balei Tosfot. So I have no idea. Yeah. So he notes that the Ravam also takes this, and Ramosha Taku takes it, the Rokeach takes it, right? So if you look in footnote 33, from the Perush Rokeach, he's a German Balei Tosfot with some influence of Chasidei Ashkenaz. He writes, Mikdash Rishon Sheni V'asu B'nei Adam Echrivo B'nei Adam Aval Mikdash Lishi Bonei Yerushalayim Hashem She'ered HaMikdash Banui, that the third Beit HaMikdash can't be destroyed because it'll fall from heaven from Mashiach. And therefore, if you turn to 163, and this is, I think, what we'll end in, is the summary. That even though, as we said, the Balei Tosfot seem not to have, they don't have a systematic work, the fact that over and over we have these suggestive comments in many of the Balei Tosfot indicates that the general approach in Ashkenaz was probably not on the Rambam side of it, was more on the Barbanel side of the equation, that there will be miracles in one stage, in two stages, who knows? I mean, this is his, and we've seen a bunch of the quotes, I think, support this. And if you look at his Professor Karenvogel summary, he writes in 163, the consistent overall approach of the Tosavists to the Messianic age that we've encountered differs almost point by point with the approach taken by Maimonides in Mishnah Torah and his introduction to Perek Chelek, while it shares much in common with the view of Abarbanel. To be sure, Maimonides and Abarbanel wrote extensively on eschatology and messianism in other works and contexts, and it's difficult to characterize the Maimonidean view solely in accordance with the material of Mishnah Torah. At the same time, the Tosfot approach is not without subtleties of its own. Chief among them is the fact that the natural order will continue to operate during the Messianic era, even as some fundamental changes will occur, including the return of miracles that have been effected during the biblical period, as well as completely unprecedented miracles. In a word, the Messianic age, according to the Tosavists, will consist of both naturalistic and apocalyptic elements.
I think that there's a difference to be made between miracles that are like a one-time thing and then like a unchanged natural order type miracle that is just continuing.
Correct. You can definitely have different distinctions.
There's
and
like splitting the sea for like an hour or whatever, and then there's pizza gers on trees for like a whole.
Yeah,
like
I agree with you. Okay, so that, as we've seen, I think, just to summarize, is that what we've seen, I think, and I think Professor Karenvogel, frames really well, is that what started as a local machloket to explain a technicality in the Gzeira of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, if you remember how we got here, right? Which was, how could you ever have a situation in which the Beit HaMikdash will be built, the Omer will be brought, but not by Chatzot Hayom, and therefore you needed the takana to be that you can't eat chadash all day because Beit HaMikdash? Correct. So if you remember, Rashi had said, how is this going to happen? The Beit HaMikdash can't be built at night. Rashi's answer to this whole kasha was going to fall from heaven. The Meiri said, I don't buy that, and therefore his in other ways astonishing claim was that the Sanhedrin won't know halacha, and in their zeal to build the Beit HamMikdash will accidentally build it at night and violate halacha.
You mean they'll forget the halacha?
Yes,
What
you were
other
here.
possibilities?
We did this. This is not. We did this multiple times. Or maybe there was food coming down, or I don't know, and you had to go and bring down the
At
food.
least I'm saying what the obvious is, implying that I
Yes.
found the answer.
Oh,
Yes,
job.
good. Baruch Hashem.
There's a positive way to look
But
at it.
what we've seen in the last two shiurim is that this little machloket is not just sort of a localized issue in understanding the sugya, but it actually is part of two completely different worldviews. One which really downplays the miracles and thinks the Messianic era is going to look much more naturalistic, which is the Rambam's view, and one which really embraces either right away or in multiple stages a much more miraculous Messianic era. And what Professor Gannervogel developed here is that even though the Balei HaTosfot don't write systematic works, from comments like this, there are comments on this sugya, there are comments in the Gemara and Shabbos, that Shmuel, even when he says Ein Bain, is Lavdafka, do seem to fall more in the Abarbanel camp that embraces a more messianic interpretation of the time of the Mikdash, of Mashiach. And we noted that there are some middle views in terms of the technical question of building the Beit HamMikdash. Either, as the Maram Shik says, that in an ideal world, God will build it. If it's not an ideal world and we have to wait, then we'll build it. Or Frank, who said the opposite, that in an ideal world, we'll be able to build it, and only if it comes to the last minute and we're never Zocha, so God has to bring Mashiach because there's no choice, so then he'll drop the Mikdash out of heaven. Several people we saw who say that, well, maybe most of it was built by God, but because we have a halachic chiyuv to build it, so obviously we're going to do the final touches, or an even more mitigated view of which is that maybe we'll build it, but we'll build it with some miraculous help. Or the Aruch LaNer's even more mitigated version, which is no, we'll completely build it. The only thing that God is adding to it is the Shekhinah, the divine presence, but the actual physical structure obviously is going to be built by human beings.
According to the Rambam's view, what happens if different people complete different parts of it? Like, for example, right now, Jews in Israel, I don't know if it's 50%, but I think like a large portion of Jews of the world are living in Israel, and in like 10 years it might be at least 50% or more.
It's over 50%.
So then that's not a specific person doing it, and then if someone, let's say, does come to Beit HamMikdash, they clearly didn't do this because already that 50% live here. So
correct, and this is one of so a lot of the religious Zionist thinkers, right, in this sense, are not purely Maimonidean, because they don't believe that you need Mashiach to do Kibbutz Galuyot. They think that it's going to happen what they call Kima Kima, right? This is what became famous from Tzvi Cook, is that Mashiach is going to come, the Messianic process will be step by step. I'm going to talk about this in another few minutes when I get back to Tefillah Shir, because I'm in the middle of the bracha of Tikkat B'Shofar Gadol. But the religious Zionists in general agree with you, and they say, no, it doesn't have to look this way. It doesn't have to be that Mashiach is doing Kibbutz Galuyot. It could be that Kibbutz Galuyot will happen, and that will be a quasi-Messianic era, even without a Mashiach. Right? That there's what, Rav Kook's position was basically that the era of quote-unquote Mashiach ben Yosef is this much more naturalistic early stage in the process of Geula. He was much more open to that, right? That this is going to happen in stages, and then some of it will happen with no particular leader, right? There'll be an era of Mashiach ben Yosef, right? He thought Herzl represented that era, right? He said that in his eulogy for Herzl, right? He said even though Herzl obviously is not complete, he wasn't religious, there's no spiritual vision here, still, he said it's happening in stages, and it's legitimate to say there'll be Kibbutz Galuyot that will happen before the actual Messianic era. There can be stages. The Rambam does seem to be much more in order. The religious Zionists take a more rationalist view, but also a process view, right? That there can be things that Kibbutz Galuyot will happen by itself, and that doesn't necessarily Mashiach.
I mean, there's no way the Rambam, if he knew what's happening, they would have the same view.
It's possible, right? Because one of the Rambam's central beliefs is that,
Is there like a temple institute that makes Beit HamMikdash like Kalim and stuff?
Well, what? Yes, there is.
Yeah,
There's
so
definitely got to be like
part of the,
electricity and plumbing, so whatever blueprints we have are gonna have to change.
Thank you.
I don't know if people are like.
We'll hire you
Yeah,
as
it seems
the.
like a very
when the
important-
basement-
We'll hire you as the contractor.
We need bathrooms.
Well, when the base measure was made to in the.
We'll hire
activities
you
of
for
the time,
contractor. Well,
Right.
So
So
the base image was made in the capabilities of building techniques at the time.
correct, but we have psukim that we have to
there are
contend
psukim
with.
that say that giving instructions how to build the third one when it happens. Except you want to tell me it's not going to have plumbing and electricity?
Well, there isn't actually a bathroom in the Beit HamMikdash. That's not in the
Meaning
Beit
a hole
HamMikdash
in the
proper.
ground.
No, there's not a bathroom anywhere.
Oh well.
Only underground and stuff, because you can't actually have one in the kedusha of the
Well,
Beit.
not inside, but like within the
outer walls.
complex, of the whole area.
The outer
No. You had to leave the Beit HamMikdash. There wasn't. The Kohanim had like in certain places, but not in the Beit HamMikdash proper.
Okay, fine. You still need plumbing for like water.
That's a different story.
That was
That's a different story.
Lights. And
Mikvah's very different. It's not a bathroom.
screens with all the zman and obviously.
Oh, push it, obviously, push it.
You have to have a screen.
You know,
Can't be- can't be a
and
sign.
tickets.
Oh,
Like tickets at the, take a number for the bit,
Carbon, yeah.
for the carbon. Oh my God, I'm number 4,300. Oh, it's a good thing I brought my smartphone. Oh, you shouldn't have your smartphone in the Beit HamMikdash.
Metal
b'chulei.
detector.
Who knows?
Security.
Very good. Okay.
Security cameras.
Like I said, I've given you this article if you're interested in more stuff. In section 4, which I won't go through, Dr. Kannervogel traces these different positions through the 12th and 13th century Shitot of the Ramban, the Radak, and the Ramah. So 3 major Rishonim. So if you're interested in how this plays out in later Rishonim, so he develops it there. But like I said, this is English. I don't think I have to read through an English article with you page by page. If you're interested in it, you can follow it up. Good. Hopefully that framed this issue. And again, I know. I'm glad we summarized it this way, just because you have to remember that sometimes what you think is a little local machloket in a sugya, of Takanas Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai in Hilchos Chadash, right, is just the tip of the iceberg of a much more meta machloket in worldviews, which is what you see here. So thank you, Daniel, for suggesting that we take this up more thoroughly.